It's the state of the dungeon! It's a video that Rob does about his games. Yeah! Hell, heroes. I am Korbrecht Cinderflume, mage of the active adventuring party, the lead party of the Grand Order. Here attempting to save the world against the depredations of the cult of the dragon. And we've had quite a tale so far, and we're going to have even more of a tale before I'm done. As I speak right now, we've advanced more of our cause against the cult of the dragon, attacking them in their castle. We were already infiltrated into the castle and had been basically putting down their cultists in the grand hall where they were sorting out the treasure that they'd ill-gotten. And it went fairly well. We'd slaughtered most of them, but unfortunately Rezmer the Black had slipped away from our grasp. She had used a dimension door to escape when she saw that we were the ones attacking the castle, and went to a teleportation room where she could vacate the premises. She took, of course, the mask with her. So, we finished the fight. When I was last there and pursuing the elf mage fighter blasphemy, well, I hadn't gotten a chance to get my axe into him when a pair of sorcerer's bolts flew past me and struck him down from Vermilion. So all the cultists were finished. Not trusting where we were, I poked my head out the door into the courtyard to see if the lizard folk had been butchering off the creatures that they had their own dispute with, the bullywugs. And I saw that time had seemed to stand still for all except for us. The bullywugs at the court were being attacked by the lizard folk, but they weren't moving. Or if they were moving, it was very, very, very slowly. But instead, there was an old man sitting in the middle of the courtyard. Now, I am a wizard, and I know that that kind of magic is reserved for the archmages and the most powerful of magicians. Quite possibly high priests as well. So I ducked back, as we were not able to deal with such things, and if he was an enemy, I was not in a position to do much. However, there's something that rang in my head about this particular one. He was surrounded by 8 tiny, or what is it, 7, tiny small yellow songbirds flying around him, and it did not radiate any menace. I called to the rest of the group and we went out to confront the figure. Interesting, Kythian immediately warmed up to the fellow, and as it turned out, it was an avatar of the dragon god Bahamut. He told us that we were too late, Rezmer had already left, but there were still things of value here in the castle. So he had stopped time for a period of up to 8 hours. We could search through the castle for the remainder, as we had finished off all the cultists, and then the rest, so that we'd gain back our powers and abilities. And then we could, once we had learned the command for the teleportation room, slip out along behind Rezmer herself before she'd had too much of a head start. In truth, she'd already had too much of a head start, but we did so. I took Vermilion with me, and we went to investigate the tower that Rezmer had claimed for her own. We found a few nice trinkets there, but mostly the most valuable thing I think that we found was her diary. The useful thing in that was, of course, the command word that we needed, and that we needed an activation runestone, which the other group found when they were investigating the central tower. Clearly there were multiple runestones, but now we had one. And we also knew the command word, which was Rezmer. When we said that, and inserted the stone into the archway in the teleportation room, it opened up a teleportation portal. Very interesting. It allowed us to cross about 1,500 miles with but a wave of magic, and we walked through and reclaimed the stone. This was at the boundary of a great desert waste. The Anorok Desert, site of a great magical disaster. But that saved us a mite bit of walking, it did. Also let us know that, well, that's where Rezmer had come out as well. So, we were determined to pursue her. Bahamut had told us that we should go to the lodge that we would find at the entrance of, or the exit of the portal. Sure enough, there was a grand lodge overlooking the desert. And also feeling that this area was also probably thick with cultists, we went to the lodge. We investigated it a bit. It was clearly a well-used building that many others had been around at one time or another in recent history. It was in good repair. So we slunk in like a group of adventurers expecting to be fighting cultists. In truth, it seemed like it was nearly empty, until we went up to an upper kind of a grand room, and there we found cultists. Aye, we found the cultists. However, most of these cultists were more experienced skirmishers of their lot, but their leader, dressed in fine white dragon-scale armour, was a step above, and she wished to talk rather than fight. And owing to dwarven custom, as we were guests in her house, she actually had welcomed us. I found it a bit crass to go and start attacking her under the proper rites of hospitality. I know, she's a cultist and dedicated towards controlling the world or destroying it. But still, manners must be preserved. And we talked. It was clear she was no fan of Rezmer or the plans to reunite the pieces of the dragon mask. At least that's what she told us, and I found no reason to gainsay that. So we talked. She told us all about Rezmer's weaknesses. How she's scared of us. She knows that we're hot on her heels, so she lit out of here as quickly as she could. Apparently there's a stable with a clutch of wyverns that they use for transportation. And she was heading on up to the town of... oh, what was it called? Some such town. I'll remember it in a short bit. But at any rate, the place was rife with cultists. So we were determined that we were going to pursue her. But first we pumped this dragon lass for all the information that we could. We found out the names of the high wizards of the... well, they aren't apparently all wizards, but they are considered the worm speakers. And there's 5 of them, one for each color of the dragons of evil. Severin, the red worm speaker, Rezmer of the black, Galvan of the blue, Norn something or other of the green, and Varum of the white. It is to this that this particular cultist had the most ire. Her name was Talus the White. And her hatred of, first of all, Varen, because he took her position. She was expecting that for her years of service, she would be elevated to Worm Speaker, and she wasn't. So she was quite upset. And in the rational means of cultists, that meant that Rezmer and the rest can die, and she's fine with that. She showed us 2 relics that they're housing at the lodge. One of them is a table, an amazing divination device. With it, you can find the location of just about anything, at least through the Sword Coast. Whether that comes down to resources and loot, whether that comes down to individuals or members of a group, it's almost impossible to hide from the thing short of non-detection. It is truly a wonder of magic. Nicked the command words for it, I did. It's also not very portable, so whoever owns this lodge has got the services of these relics. The other is a tapestry, which allows teleportation. It's somehow linked to the table, and allows the transportation to some other location. It is a wondrous magical item, to be sure. It also allows teleportation back, which is impressive. So yes, she offered to allow us to use these items to reconnect with the guild, and possibly bring along a few others to help us in the upcoming struggle. Some of the members that we had weren't quite so keen on staying with us. They wanted to pursue other ventures, so our group got jumbled up a bit. Glint, the hammer-obsessed dwarf, decided to take over Vermilion's spot, although Vermilion is still staying in reserve. Belphegor stayed with me, fortunately, and of course I'm still continuing on. Although it is interesting that all these others are still very keen on helping if need be. Malark decided that he would step aside for this halfling lass, a warrior, a rather fierce fighter I've seen. And of course we still have Kythian. Kythian is as consistent as the day is long. So our group juggled a little bit. I don't think that I'm too worried about our group. As long as we've got me and Kythian along and plenty of meat up front, we should be alright. But then, of course, we know what the next leg is going to involve. Apparently, Rezmer went to organize the collecting of more treasure for her dragon goddess. And she's gone to her place of transport, which just so happens to be the flying castle of a cloud giant. Oy, 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 oy. I'm not looking forward to this. I'm really not. I think it's a wee bit out of our league, but again, we don't know what stands against us. The town that they're hovering over is rife with cultists, as I've said. But if we could prevent them from swarming into the keep, we'd have a bit better of a chance. Also, the treasure is guarded by a white dragon, a powerful one. The kind of thing that we just love to fight. The creature is known as Glazier the Cloud Chaser, which tells me that it's kind of a foolish creature. A white dragon that chases clouds is, yeah. I've heard that compared to the other dragons, the whites are not very intelligent. But against us, you don't need to necessarily be intelligent. Bigger and stronger with a breath weapon that kills is pretty impressive on its own. We also don't know the status of the cloud giant who owns the keep. He's probably going to be less than interested in us crawling around. But maybe he won't. I don't know. There's too many variables here. And of course, Rezmer is the key. We must slay Rezmer and take that mask. We know that Rezmer has a very interesting greatsword that allows her to Dimension Door. Still haven't found a great way of stopping that. But as far as the others go, we're going to have to hope that a fight against her is fairly uncomplicated. She's a powerful spellcaster, and as a cleric can probably also fight fairly well. I have my misgivings, but at this point we don't have much of a choice. We'll have to stop her here. So, if Bahamut's looking down on us and can give us a wee bit of fortune to go our way along with Lady Tamora, and if Moradin stands side by side with us, ready with his wet axe to slay a few of these deranged cultists, we may triumph. Some of us may fall, but we'll fight to the last if it need be. This is a fight we cannot afford to defer or to fail at. So, I am Korbrecht, and we are about to head out by Wyvern pursuing Rezmer. Do not say I enjoy the prospect of flying out in a great manky wannabe dragon with a huge poison stinger aimed at my back. But we do what we must. Wish us well, for if we fail here, it may be a very grim dawn approaching. If Rezmer can get that mask back to her fellows, and if they can find the remaining pieces of that mask, Tiamat will not be kind to the world. I am Korbrecht Cinderflume. May the Grand Order triumph, and her honour ever be strong. Farewell.